Hello and thank you for watching. I'm Jennifer Bowman with Olympia Piano. This is the Olympia Piano Studio, and this is video number 2 for this wonderful book called How to Practice Music by Andrew Eales. The book is published by Hal Leonard, and I have a whole introduction to this book in video number 1, so be sure to watch that and be sure to order this book because it is jam-packed with information. I'm going to be going through it and doing several videos on it. So today I would like to offer you a video called The 2 Types of Practice Session, and this is going to be an overview for what this might look like for an advanced or a professional pianist. The one thing I want to mention at the beginning is I'm not going to go into how much time you should be doing because everyone's circumstance is different. So your practice time could actually be 1 hour to as much as 6 hours, just depending on your circumstance. Andrew says, to help you focus on a manageable but effective practice strategy, it can help to think of 2 types of session, the routine session and the deep dive. So let's start with the routine session. Andrew again says, this is ideally a daily fixture and might range in length from about 10 minutes to an hour, depending on your level and lifestyle. So as an advanced or professional pianist, it's my opinion that you should really spend a little bit of time on technique and skills every day, even if it's just 15 minutes. Personally, I spend about 30 minutes, and so I'll show you how I break that down. It's a combination of finger exercises and chords and scales and such. Part of doing this sort of practice is making sure our hands stay healthy, we're not building in bad habits, and that we stay fluent in all of the keys and scales of the piano. So what I like to do, my favorite book is this Boris Berlin's Essential Daily Exercises. There's 20 chapters. I usually do 1 chapter a day in 6 different keys. So I'll just move up. So you incorporate all the different geography on the piano. Then the next day I'll do the next 6 keys, and then the next day I will do the next chapter. So that's how I use that. There's other great books. I just find this one to be particularly useful. And then I usually do about 20 minutes of scales and patterns. So what does this include? It includes major and minor scales, 4 octaves, all 3 minors, so the natural, the harmonic, the melodic. Then I also do formula, pattern, and grand scale. That's this thing. When you go contrary and parallel, scales in thirds, in sixths, octave scales, broken octave scales, chromatic scales. So if you're a jazz pianist, of course, you might put in blues scales and scales in the jazz idiom in this area. So the next part would be chord progressions, standard. You can mix it up in any sort of way. I also include jazz in this category, so 2-5-1s in the circle of fifths. And you could make arpeggios. Broken and blocked chord inversion. So what's that? It's this sort of things. Or alternating. You would do that with tonic, which I just showed you, and then also the dominant 7 of that key. So arpeggios as well. So the root arpeggios, dominant 7, which is more difficult, and diminished 7. So hands separately, hands together. So find a chunk of time that works for you. Like I said, for me, the scales and chords portion is about 15 to 20 minutes. Usually I take 1 major and 1 minor key. So I would do everything in the key of E. And that's how long it usually takes. There's lots of great lists of technique recommendations. I usually use just the list in the Royal Conservatory, but in all of these programs, the graded programs, they're going to have the technique skills that they want you to do in a list. There's so many things you can put in the skills practice, but I think an essential one would be putting in some sight reading. So I try to do 5 to 10 minutes of sight reading per day. Currently, I'm just taking my Bach well-tempered clavier, and I'm just playing one prelude and one fugue a day, whether or not I've played them before. And then we get to repertoire. What do you do with your repertoire? So there's so many things you can do, and it just depends on how much repertoire you are working on. Let me just give you some short examples. I'll be as quick as I can. So hand separate practice, I think this is pretty much essential. You should try to do this at least every couple of days. So for example, if we're playing this Beethoven sonata, and then right hand. So I'm looking at the notes, I'm looking at are they even or not, but what else am I looking for? I'm looking for, does the left hand have any extra little melodies? That's a lot more interesting than this. That's what we do in the hand separately practice. Dig in even deeper. Or another idea is making sure to reinforce rhythms you already know, rhythmic practice. I like to use this example from Claire de Lune. We've got a 9/8 time signature, but then there are 2 against 3s. So something like this would be a good thing to do for routine practice. Counting out loud, 1 and a, 2 and a, reinforcing this rhythm. 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a, 1 and a, 2 and a, 3 and a. Very strict and very forte, so you are absolutely certain where those beats are, so then when you incorporate the tempo rubato, you can be very flexible and free. Another idea for routine practice is actually figuring out the rhythm. I have the second movement of the Mozart C minor sonata here. If you look at the first measure, it looks really easy. Then when you get to line 3, all of a sudden there's 30-second notes all over the place, rest where you don't expect them, turns, and you've got to figure out that rhythm. So what I would do in my routine practice is I might choose 4 lines of a piece and really figure out that beat by counting out loud. So I'm going to I'll post this above as I'm counting out loud so you can see what it is. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4. So being positive where all of those subdivisions occur. Rhythmic practice. And then speaking of rhythmic practice, another great thing to do is if you are working on passage work, you could use your routine practice to practice in rhythms. So I'm talking about 8th notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, long passages. So if I'm practicing rhythms, I might do 5 different rhythms. So regular first. Short. Short, long. Triplet, long. Long triplet. And then I might do staccato. So there's all sorts of ways you can do that as well. So that is practicing in rhythms for passage work. Another thing for routine practice is memorizing, but mindful memorization. Let's say we're working on Chopin's Nocturne, Opus 9, number 2, this one. For this piece, maybe a week-long practice, routine practice for memorization could be memorize 12 measures in the week. So that means 4 measures every other day. 4 measures on Monday, review it Tuesday. 4 measures on Wednesday, review it Thursday, and so forth. Fingering, super essential. A lot of people skip this step. They keep playing it and they don't know what they're playing, and then when you get in front of an audience, it gets really scary. So I really encourage you to take a huge chunk of your routine practice at the beginning of a piece to figure out the fingering. I'm going to post a little bit of a piece that I'm working on right now. It's from Well-Tempered Clavier. It's number 3, the fugue, and this is the kind of detail I'm actually talking about. Okay, routine practice, hard parts. You have to practice the hard parts every day. So what would be a hard part? A hard part, you're playing this Chopin Nocturne, this one. The hard part is in measure 52, this thing. Practice that 20 times. Practice it right hand, left hand, hands together. So hard parts you just have to do every day. That gives you the confidence when you are sharing with other people that you've got it. So that's a very, very basic amount of things you could do for routine practice. I've had some people write to me in the comments from the other video, so take the time, if you're watching this video, read the comments and see what people are coming up with. If you have some routine practice ideas, put them in the comments so we can all see them. We want to help each other out in this piano community here. So part 2, the deep dive. Andrew says, in a deep dive, you might find yourself revisiting your favorite pieces from the past, working on a skill or technique, or improvising and composing your own music. Avoid planning these sessions in advance. Instead, find out where your playful curiosity takes you. I just love this because there's so much music and so many things you can do with music. So what could be some examples for this deep dive section? Play through music that you don't normally play. I'm mostly a classical pianist, so it's nice for me to try to find some Bill Evans transcriptions and play through them, see what they're like. Try to notate something by ear. If you have a favorite song on your streaming services that's very popular, can you pick it out and play it on the piano? Work out patterns for accompaniment. So let's say I'm playing something with this for whatever. What could I do for an accompaniment figure? Or I could play chords. So play around with that sort of stuff. Try to figure out an arrangement from a lead sheet. A lead sheet is, this is the Christmas reel book, so you have your melody and then above you have chords. So at first you might figure out the chords. And then what could you do with that? Playing around with fun stuff like that could be a deep dive. Revisit a different style of music. This is ragtime. The fun thing about ragtime is it's all about this back and forth with the left hand that we don't have super often in the classical repertoire. So it's fun to try to figure out, could I do it with the left hand? I had a great comment from a viewer just today. He suggested, as part of the deep dive, practice starting your performance piece in different spots. I think that's a brilliant thing to do for the deep dive. You got a piece you're playing, and instead of starting from the beginning every day, go 10 measures in, go 20 measures in, start from those different spots. One other great deep dive activity is to record yourself once a week with your phone. So set it up and do a performance, and that will recreate some of the nerves that are involved when you actually are playing in front of an audience. Hopefully by getting this book and exploring it, that will ignite your creativity and you can come up with different routine practices, different deep dive practices, different ways to make practicing fun. Because it should be fun. We are playing the piano, that's what we call it. We don't call it fighting with the piano. We call it playing the piano. So thank you very much for watching. In the description, I've included a link to Andrew's website and bio. He's done so much for the world of piano. I want you to check it out. Also want to say thank you to Hal Leonard for publishing this book. I encourage all of my viewers to check out Hal Leonard and what they have to offer the musical community because it is huge. So thank you, Hal Leonard. I've included links where you can purchase this book, both in the UK and in the USA. If you find my style of teaching helpful to you, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, share it with others who might enjoy this style of teaching, and even donate to the channel so I can create more content like this. You can donate through PayPal directly, or you can do what's called a YouTube Super Thanks. That's a direct donation through YouTube. If you're looking at your screen, you'll see on the bottom, share, subscribe, save. Then there'll be 3 dots, and you click on those 3 dots, and then that thanks button will bring you to the direct donation, which is called Super Thanks. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and also please let me know where you're from. I love to know where the piano is bringing us all together. Thanks again for watching.